All right, jumpers, this jump rope skill tutorial is going to focus on the Mamba or side-to-side mick release. If you're a jumper that wants to be efficient, if you want to continually level up your skills, this is a tutorial for you. All right, let's get started. Now, before doing the Mamba, you should definitely be able to do a mick on both sides of your body, and you should be able to hold a vertical release rotation for an extended period of time. So let's go through the main tips here. Number one, we want to make sure that the rope stays vertical as it's turning on both sides. We want the end of the rope to always be in an upright position rather than slashing at an angle. Now, when we do our transition, we'll definitely see the rope come at a little bit of an angle, but when it's on each side of our body, it should be upright. As we transition from side to side with this mick, we actually do a figure 8 position with our hands. So our hands will kind of go up and then down and then up, and almost like they are scooping back and forth between the sides of our body. Now, as we're doing that figure 8 position with our hand, we are actually going to tug the rope from side to side. So as our hand transitions, we're actually using our wrist to give a little bit of a tug and pull from one side to the next. We want to make sure that the rope is not simply just going up and down and then we move our body, but we actually are directing where the rope is and how it's transitioning from one side of our body to the next. Now, when you're actually doing the Mamba, your hand will be just about chest height, somewhere around your lower sternum to mid sternum. And your arm will be slightly extended out in front of you. You don't want it too close, it'll be kind of hard to transition back and forth, but you also don't want it to be straight out in front of you. It should be extended and a little bit flexed, but right about chest height. Also, the shorter your rope is, the easier it will be to do this skill. Now, you don't want a rope that's way too short because then you won't be able to jump it. Some people do choose to go very, very short, and that totally works for their style, but as you're learning, it should be a nice balance between actually being able to jump, but also being able to turn the rope. If the rope is too long, it'll slap the ground and be very difficult for you to actually make the transition happen. Now, my rope, if I step on it with one foot and I pull it up, the end of the rope actually ends right at about the bottom of my ribs. So now that's just what I'm using, but you can definitely go a lot shorter when it comes to doing the Mamba skill. But again, it's really about finding the balance for what works for your style of jump rope and what you enjoy the most. You definitely want to avoid going too slowly with this. If we turn too slowly with the Mamba and really with any mix skill, the rope will just drop. If there's not enough rope tension, the rope is simply just going to drop down to the ground or hit the ground a lot and bounce around, and we really don't want that. So make sure that you're giving it a good amount of energy to keep spinning and to keep the rope in that loop shape as it transitions from side to side. One of the other things we want to avoid is focusing on the handle rather than the end of the rope. Now, when we turn a mick, a lot of times we think about what the handle is doing rather than what the end of the rope is doing. We should really ignore the handle because so long as it's staying upright, there's enough tension, it's fine. It should be basically equal to where our other hand is that's turning, but we want to focus on where the end of the rope is. The end of the rope tells us where the loop is in its rotation, where it is oriented around our body, and we want to make sure that we're focusing and really dialing in on where the end is and how the end is transitioning. So when we do that figure 8 position, our hand is really mimicking where the end of the rope is, not where the handle is. Now, we want to avoid sending the mick out really far from our body when we're starting the Mamba. Now, later on, you might want to play with this, but right now we need the rope to be a reasonable distance from our hip. We don't want it right next to our hip because transitioning is very difficult, but having the rope about shoulder's width away from our hips is good. But if we send it out way too far, when we do the tug, when we use the figure 8 motion with our hand and transition from the side, it will pull the rope way too hard and be very difficult to control because it'll really be snapping back and forth. Now, in the future, you should definitely play with this. You should definitely try what it feels like to experiment with different forms of the Mamba. It's really cool to change up the style and see kind of how it feels. And it also looks pretty cool if you can whip that thing back and forth quickly. All right, so how do you practice the Mamba? The first thing we'll start with is actually doing a mick or a vertical release on the same side as the hand that is turning. So normally when we do a mick release, we actually cross over our body and then spin the rope that way. But we actually want to try it on the same side because this is very uncomfortable at first. But this movement, this vertical release on the same side is actually usually the catch point for a lot of people. So start there, try that out. You don't necessarily have to catch the rope, but getting used to what that motion feels like is very important. From there, we'll just do one Mamba rep. And the way we're going to kind of qualify that is from standing with your hands together. We'll bring the rope around. We'll do a mick on one side. We'll transition to the next side. We'll transition back to the original side and then try to catch the mick into a toe catch. You can definitely keep going back and forth with Mambas, but when you're starting, really just isolate the skill and get a feel for what it feels like to go back and forth. From there, you can just kind of stack it together, so you can go left, right, and do as many reps as you want, or just use this as a transition skill to go in between different crossing skills, or many other ways really. You can just kind of stylize this however you like, which is kind of the magic of the Mamba skill. All right, if this was helpful for you, send it off to a friend that you think could benefit from this tutorial. If you have any questions at all, drop a comment down below, or hit me up on Instagram through DM at Nate_KG. All right guys, I'll see you in the next tutorial.